Hello everyone and welcome to the first ever InfinityCast. My name is Jason OCE, Community Director here at Lightmare Studios. Joining me is the founder of Lightmare Studios and Creative Director of Infinity Wars, Agent Coil Prime.
Hello.
We also have the gameplay and coder man himself, Ruben, joining us.
Welcome.
And we also have our lore intern, Lady Valor.
Lovely to meet you.
Before we get started into this video, we're just going to be quickly jumping along to a quick little presentation from our CEO, Elfie, who's going to bring you up to speed with everything that's happened in the past few years regarding Infinity Wars. This will be something that you guys probably have almost no clue of, and it will be very different for you to hear everything as raw and uncensored as possible. We're just going to use the magic of editing to segue directly into that. See you in a moment.
Hello Riffrunners, it's been a while since Lightmare has addressed you directly, so let's catch up a bit. In about March 2015, we changed our distribution agreement with our publisher Yodo One to be a co-development partnership, where we shared development of the game. In 2017, after some time of this working, we were on the bad end of changes in government incentives that meant we were far less self-funded, and we lost our IW development team. We then renegotiated with Yodo One to give them full development and upkeep control. We essentially handed over everything but the IP for Infinity Wars. As part of the agreement, Yodo One received almost all of the earnings for the game, and with good reason, as they were responsible for all of it. We're forever grateful for Yodo One for the years that they kept our service going, worked on bug fixes, and even released some new sets of cards and created some DLCs and 2 new campaigns. However, eventually the poor foundations we laid out in our coding practices and lack of documentation from 2013 came back to bite us. Well, they did several times, but each bite was actually twice as hard. The spaghetti code got to a point where each set we built required twice as much work, and systems that were never designed to work together were forced and mashed and stuck with duct tape until they kind of worked. Eventually, Yodo One cut down on the support for the game when it was losing money for many months in a row. But the game was also very popular with the founder of Yodo One, along with some of the other staff, and so they didn't want to kill off Infinity Wars. They kept the servers up effectively as a favour to the few fans we had that still had a passion for the game. Unfortunately, at the end of 2018, they had to make the difficult decision to stop supporting the game servers, as they were gearing up for changes and expansions in 2019. Now, we at Lightmare didn't want to have our most successful game shut down, and we've been working on Infinity Heroes, a more accessible and competitive-focused title, so we began working with Yodo One on bringing the servers back to Lightmare and having us cover the costs. They were very cooperative in this process, and even kept the servers going on their end for a few months extra while we made arrangements and prepared. This has led to some outages in the last month or two, but it's also led us to today. So Lightmare Studios is now fully in control of the servers and the game's development and support for the first time since 2015. This is exciting, but is also a lot of responsibility. As a result, we have some decisions to make in the upcoming months on whether to invest into reviving the service or to plan to shut it down. We wanted to start off by opening the floodgates for communication. We'll also be more active online and in discussions, as well as more transparent regarding our objectives and direction now that we can. What you're watching now is the first step in doing just that. Bear with us, as this is the pilot episode, so audio might not be perfectly balanced and the video is not too crisp, but it will hopefully be worth the content we have for you. So, we're going to jump back into the full podcast to talk about our current ideas and proposed direction for Infinity Wars, as well as touch on Infinity Heroes and the lore of Infinity Wars going forward. Let's get to it.
Thanks so much for that, Elfie. So let's talk a little bit about Infinity Wars going forward and where we go from here. So also just as a quick note, just to the side, everything that we're discussing here at the moment is going to be purely ideas and speculation and just general thoughts that we have regarding Infinity Wars and its current direction. Nothing set in stone, and we do want to hear from you guys, our community, what you think we should do, because this isn't a problem with like one direct solution. There's so many different ways we could go through this, and we want to do what makes the most sense for us as a company and makes the most entertainment for you, our players. So just a quick note, we do want to hear from you, and this is just us talking about ideas. Let's start talking about those ideas.
Yeah, thank you. So I've got a whole stack of ideas that I've been buzzing through my head since recently being able to take back over Infinity Wars. And one of them would be that we're even looking at doing a commemorative expansion pack for the fans. So we'll be able to bring over some of the cards from Infinity Heroes, but also design some of the cards in conjunction with you guys, both from a perspective if we do a Kickstarter or what have you, people can purchase a card and have the art done. But more importantly, those that are avid players will be able to have an input on the design of this set. And yeah, just really wanted to start on the right foot with actually involving the player base. A lot of you guys, you've got so much more experience in the game than any of us definitely at this table have. So we'd love to hear what it is you want to see in Infinity Wars, because otherwise, what's the point in us, picking this back up and making it all great if we haven't got people who want to play it? So I want to work with you guys on that front. So yeah, that's one of the ideas.
I mean, if we're going to talk about working on Infinity Wars again, we should probably talk about the elephant in the room. The game itself and the current state that it's in, specifically regarding a coding and documentation level. And we did mention that in the little thing that Elfie Coil Prime did, we didn't necessarily have a great record keeping back then, and a lot of the systems did suffer. Ruben, you've seen the source code of Infinity Wars. That laugh tells you just about everything you need to know. And so how do we actually work with something that's so outdated and difficult to work with?
It's a very good question, and there was many moments where we were thinking, do we just restart Infinity Wars over the years, and it just started to get ahead of itself. It became so popular for the size of our studio that we just kept trying to piece it all together, as I mentioned before. And yeah, with one of the good things, actually just throwing over to Infinity Heroes for a sec, is that we've refactored that game a couple of times now. So we've been able to go, okay, let's learn what we can from this point, hit reset, and just see what we can do to fix it. And we've just recently done another refactoring recently, which has meant that that we've had 0 card D6. Now the reason for that is because it's built on a different system that doesn't individually make each card. But that has been one of the biggest complaints I've heard over the years around these desync errors. We're now able to actually have none of them. So the question is, what do we do? Do we go and make Infinity Wars 2 with using Infinity Heroes code base, which is very, very impressive, especially compared to the other code base. And I don't want to knock it. It is what it is, and it definitely served the purpose of having a game. But if we're going to do this again, I want to make sure that the game is polished and stable. Would be good. So good question.
I mean, we've talked about everything, and just in the whole ideas phase, nothing's been off the table. We've even considered talking to some of the old programmers and designers for Infinity Wars back from 2012, 2014, back that were working on the project. And because there's no documentation, we don't necessarily know how the code works. But if we get in touch with someone that worked on the code, they might be able to potentially bring us more up to speed and accelerate that process. We're still not 100% sure about that idea, but as we said, nothing's off the table. We're just considering all options at this stage.
Even considering open sourcing it, really whatever is going to allow this game to survive and thrive. As I mentioned before, Yodo have done an amazing job of keeping the servers up, even at their own cost often. But obviously now we're taking it back on. We're a bit smaller than Yodo 1, so we have to make a real choice. And they were just going to shut it down end of last year and said, look, do you guys want it back? Can you do something with it? And we've said, yes, we could do something with it. So now we're in this position where we choose whether we want to move forward with it. And if we do, it's going to be in conjunction with you guys. So, yeah. Any other ideas there around the code base?
Yes, I mean, there's all this technical debt that is accumulated over the years, and especially it's using ancient versions of Unity. It's got code that is hooked into all these other online systems to keep the server running as well. So it's not easy for us to change small things without then having to do updates and then make sure all the other systems are integrated with that update too. So not having that proper documentation makes it very difficult. But that's why Infinity Heroes did not work from a completely blank slate, and we knew the problems of the previous project coming into it, and we deliberately designed it so that we would never have desync issues, so that cards are not built on a card-by-card basis, but are in fact made up of tiny little modular pieces that we can mix and match and edit on the so that we can have things like community-made content, etc. There's so much we can do with the new systems, but we've got to figure out what we want to do with the legacy systems.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. Like, what we've built with Infinity Heroes, it would be reasonable and reasonably easy enough just to literally plug in each of the cards. But then obviously we've got all the issues with, transferring everyone's cards across and then, coding a bunch of cards that weren't designed for mobile. And one of the things about Infinity Heroes is that we've made it so it's as accessible as possible from a mobile device or from a PC, that we don't have tappable effects on the cards, for example, that we only have 3 characters in the attack zone and 2 in the defense zone. So it's a very tight game. It's very, very much Infinity Wars-esque, but that is one of the things that we've got to figure out. What do we do? Do we put it into that, or do we put some resources into Infinity Wars? So this is just the beginning of the discussion, and we do want to hear from you guys, and then we've got all these different directions we can go to make it happen. So just wanted to basically table the fact that yes, we are looking at the code now, and we are looking at what we want to do with that, and frankly whether we want to do anything with it.
I think one of the cool things as mentioned by Ruben is like the system is a lot more modular. So we've created a system that's so easy to add to, and one of the original ideas that Agent Quail had was the idea of a hero creator, where we give you guys complete and utter control to actually make your own cards. And at first, like when I heard that, I was a little bit turned off, because I'm like, that's very highly ambitious, and could potentially be abused in so many ways. It just doesn't make feasible sense. And then when we saw the modular system growing and its power, we were like, oh my god, this is not only feasible, it's actually somewhat easier to actually do now that the system's in place. So that's actually really exciting to see that coming along a little bit by little bit.
Yeah, we can provide this is the InfinityCast, right? So we're going to talk about everything Infinity Wars and Infinity Heroes based. So we can drop a couple of things here around the Infinity Hero creator, in that we've looked at different systems to be able to have like point-based allocation to those cards. So it's not just carte blanche, make whatever you want, and people just make broken cards and broken combos. There will be some combos that are broken out there, but the point is we've built a system that's modular that we can then use to, that's what we want to do, is giving it to you guys so that you can input on the game and create your own cards and things as well. That's for Infinity Heroes, but yeah, with this coming together of the Infinity worlds, there's all kinds of possibilities. Really.
I mean, the game itself is also really fun. I mean, like a little bit of bias here, completely admitted, but Lady Valor, you aren't necessarily a card game player.
I hate card games.
Right now.
Yeah. But there's a but here. But how do you feel about Infinity Heroes?
When I first played Infinity Heroes, that cold morn at the Australian Esports Open, covered in rain, crying, like verge of tears, I played the working demo of Infinity Heroes, and it was actually really solid.
Yeah.
Like, I hate collecting in games. Like, I cannot stand the Pokemon games. I had a very brief Yu-Gi-Oh period in high school.
We all did.
That's it. But no, this is actually, as someone who's not a regular card gamer, even though I'm a regular gamer, the fact that I don't have to collect, and I can just, hey, I like this hero, cool, they've got units attached to them, so I can just play that. That for me is the perfect card game.
Yeah.
So,
and that's an interesting point you hit on there. Like, the part of my original intention, and I love the fact that we get to do this. This is Jason's idea, so great idea, Jason, on doing a cast, and especially now that we can talk very, very openly about everything, then I can give you guys some of my thinking, because there has been a bit of kind of assuming, and it's fair enough. Like, what else are you going to do if you haven't got the information? You're going to assume whatever you assume from what you read or see or
We're
hear.
going to assume the worst.
Yeah. Well,
Usually the worst. Actually, good point.
When we give radio silence, like that itself can tell a story.
Yeah.
So
And I do really wish we could have spoken before now, but now we get to do this. So, but one of the reasons why I designed Infinity Heroes, it was to be complementary to Infinity Wars. It was to be able to have something where people like Lady Valor could come into the game, have a little bit of play for it, they get a feel for the dynamics of card games in general, and then they could sort of upgrade, or graduate to Infinity Wars when they're ready.
I mean, the whole idea of Infinity Heroes was just taking all barriers of entry and just destroying them.
Yeah.
You're worried about spending hundreds of dollars on a competitive Magic the Gathering deck? Well, hit $5, here's your entire deck. You are at complete and utter competitive level with everybody else based on your cards.
$0. Play some games.
Yeah.
Have your token unlock whichever deck you want, off you go.
Yeah, the better player is deciding who wins, not who has the better deck and who has more time to actually spend on finding the collections and building those decks, which is absolutely amazing. So,
but I do acknowledge that there's definitely a space for trading card games still. There's still a massive, beautiful niche. There's the funding there, because obviously even myself as a trading card gamer, I'm willing to spend lots of money on a trading card game. So there's this kind of interesting thing where we've got this subset of amazingly devoted and passionate fans for trading cards, but Infinity Heroes is not that. So we definitely heard that message, that we've got a different set of fans, but there is crossover there. And the objective here is to be able to grow the player base for both Infinity Wars and Infinity Heroes.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's a great point that you brought up, the idea of Infinity Heroes being complementary. Because when we first told everyone, hey guys, we're making Infinity Heroes, after not posting anything about Infinity Wars for a year, people panicked. Okay, they're about to shut down the servers. They're jumping ship onto this new thing because they're money-grabbing scumbag. That was a really hard thing to deal with at the time. And
but I understand the assumptions being made as well. It's fair enough.
We wanted them to both be there, so you had options, and the player bases could feed into each other, and the design choices could coexist and learn from each other. If we make a mistake in one game, we don't have to replicate it in the other one.
And we don't have to merge them. We can do it we're talking about the idea of doing Infinity Wars 2020, because hilariously,
2020
hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
And we've learned a lot of. It's the first time you heard that joke. So that's the potential moniker for the updated version of Infinity Wars. Should we do that?
It's going to be super fun. Yeah.
Unfortunately, hindsight is 2020, but foresight is not.
Indeed. Well, we're going to try and have as much foresight as possible by actually quizzing the players and actually finding out, because we fortunately have got a market of you guys. It's hundreds of thousands of players that obviously most of us have not been playing for a while, myself included. But there is a big database of people there who could rally behind this. But the thing that's going to be mattering the most is those core players who are still playing or have played in the last few months. Really, it's going to depend on what you guys think of this idea and what ideas you have to make this work alongside us. Obviously, we're going to do the heavy lifting on making it all happen, but we do want to hear from you so that we can re-engage everyone and bring this not just back to what it was like in the glory days. I was last majorly involved in the game back in 2013, early 2014. But everyone else here has not even touched Infinity Wars.
Yeah, we're a completely new, fresh team.
So this is an opportunity to start fresh, and we want to start that fresh start with working with you guys. Yeah.
It's kind of heartwarming in a way.
So it might be a good time now to also mention a couple of other ideas that have been bouncing through my head. One of them was to have some percentage. I'm purporting we do 25%, but we'll see what is actually feasible. Jason's been calming me down on that and saying 10 to 20.
20 is a solid maximum.
Yeah, I would love
to be ambitious.
I would love to be able to have it set up so that basically out of every dollar that's spent, 25% of that, or 25 cents of that, goes back into a prize pool for the players, so we can start creating a real community of competition. Again, looking at the player base that's probably left, that's where we want to start. We want to start with a focus on the years and hours that you've been pouring into this game and enjoying this game and getting good at this game. We want to be able to reward that, but obviously we are a small indie studio, so one of the ways we could do that is by committing a percentage of the income from the game, the gross income of the game, straight into a prize pool. So
25 is still a little bit ambitious, but if we do set a very solid number, we're hey, each dollar that you spend, this is how much of it is instantly going into a competitive prize pool, and that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
And we designed Infinity Heroes to have that competitive aspect as well. It's still early days for that, but it's we have the alpha build available for those backers, and we update that every month or so. We just had 4 new heroes or something added in recently. So there's lots going on there, and we have some very special things behind the scenes with Infinity Heroes that we can't talk about quite yet, but it's coming soon.
Real soon actually. We've had some stuff we've been working on for months that we've got almost ready for viewing for the public. And speaking of that, we can announce that sometime in the next month or so we'll be doing another free weekend for Infinity Heroes, so you can come into that and just see what we as the new team have been doing. I can't stress enough that we've been doing our best to look back and understand what's happened with the previous titles, to then learn from that and then create something new going forward. I mean, it's to the point where I almost want to rebrand the business to like Infinity Game Studios. So let me know what you guys think of that, and just to really honour the game that has kept us here and got us to this point, and then what has become the basis for our games moving forward. So.
Yeah.
The thing is, once you copyright Infinity, you're pretty much set. And that's everything that will be.
Yeah. 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 So, is there anything else around Infinity Heroes, maybe as an update that you want to give, Ruben?
Yeah. So just apart from kind of working on our secret features, we've been adding lots of new heroes at a pretty rapid pace, because we did design the system to be really easy. Like today, I added a whole new hero with multiple cards in a single day. Took barely any time at all, and that's because we built the system with a much better foundation, so that we don't have these constant, we don't have the technical debt because we've got everything documented. We don't have the decent garros that played the original game, and we can have a really solid project coming forward into the future.
Now you've said that, Ruben, I kind of want you to just jump in there and put the 700 cards in straight away. 10 cards a day.
We've got
that'll be done. 70. That's like 10 weeks, and we have all of Infinity Wars in Infinity Heroes. It's something to consider. And I don't know if I've said this publicly before, but I'm a trading card gamer, from way back. I used to play competitive versus, I was a Magic Judge years ago, and I've played a bunch of Dragon Ball Super, thanks to Jason, actually, who got me into it.
My bad.
And I'm big on not buying a collection of cards and having it shut down and having it go away, right? I mean, or even the game dying. Obviously, the cards then become useless, and it's no point in owning all these pieces of cardboard if no one wants to play with you or no one wants to buy those cards off you. So that's part of my impetus for keeping Infinity Wars up as long as possible, was I didn't want to see all these cards just go away, and so I am really bringing this to you guys partially as well, so that we can find a way to keep these servers up and have it be financially at least viable, at least be breaking even, so that we can keep these servers up ongoingly. That's another point, but it will come soon.
Something I should mention, and this is just me nipping a problem in the bud before it comes up. If we talk about redesigning and recreating Infinity Wars on the new Infinity Heroes quote unquote engine or systems that we have, people are instantly going to worry about their collections being lost forever and stuff. So we should mention that, if we do decide to go in that direction, we're probably going to be keeping that in mind and doing.
We are going to be keeping that in mind and doing in every future Infinity Wars product, or if we do something around that, we're going to find a way to be able to make sure, even if it's Infinity Wars 2, and we have these cards come across, that your collection stays intact and that you're able to log into a whole different game and at least have all these cards that you've kept over these years that are still your own. So.
I mean, one of the cool ideas that I came up with was. After Infinity Heroes, we start working on an Infinity Wars 2 and have an Infinity Wars Classic mode, which is the game as it is today, except everything works. Yeah. Which is almost a completely separate game than what currently exists today. Yeah. But people would import their collections from old Infinity Wars to Infinity Wars 2 Classic mode, so they could continue to play and trade in the Classic mode itself, and then we could have a slightly different, maybe more complicated, maybe less complicated, a different game for Infinity.
Yeah, there's heaps of stuff I've got.
Or some sort of credit system where, because even if each card doesn't have a one-to-one, this card stays forever. You could, if it all gets converted into some sort of in-game currency or something.
Yeah, I mean, one for one, that could be, again, up to you guys as well. That might be a better way to go, to sort of be able to start fresh and then be able to get all those cards. But we do want to do our best to be able to at least honour the effort and the money you've put into getting the cards so far. And there's heaps of ideas for Infinity Wars 2, if we're going to talk about that stuff, in both making the game more accessible and easier to play, maybe not having 150 cards in the attack zone and having to move each of those across to the defense zone. Might not be good. Might have a button to do that, or limit the zone, hence what we did in Infinity Heroes. But there's heaps of ideas I've got around creating class systems and having There's lots of cool things we could do with Infinity Wars 2, but all that's down the road. Maybe a lot closer than we think if it's only going to take a day to put 10 cards into Infinity Heroes and create a trading system in Infinity Heroes.
I think you've accidentally doomed yourself there. That might have been a little bit not smart.
But yeah, obviously in the past we were not in control of Infinity Wars, as I mentioned way back at the start of the video. So now we have got that complete control. We can do whatever makes sense to do for the game and for the players. So
yeah.
Okay.
I think one of the things we wanted to end the video, was there anything else we wanted to touch on Infinity Wars, Infinity Heroes dev-wise before we moved on to the final thing we wanted to talk about? Anything? Okay. Because one of the things we wanted to finish up with was, the reason we have Lady Valor here was to talk about the lore direction and the story itself. Because, the story itself is a slightly little bit convoluted and has some parts that aren't necessarily up to date and things that aren't necessarily cared for. And a lot of the story, this is something I've been finding out more and more in my time working behind the scenes here at Lightmare, is a lot of things were meant to be a certain way and then just not communicated at all. For example, I was speaking recently to a community member, Ben Yonan. Hello, Ben Yonan, if you're watching.
Hi. Thank you for all your amazing work.
He knows everything there is to know about Infinity Wars lore and has been an amazing resource to me. And when I told him, because Agent Coil told me about the last 2 Agent Coil cards that released, he told me the in-depth story of how they actually came to be. And then when I went to Ben Yonan, I was like, so how much do you know about this? He was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And for the person who knows everything to not know, that means it just never got published. So there are some gaps that we need to start filling here, and we need to start thinking about how we manage our lore going forward. And we've already got some interesting ideas on how we can do that, potentially with short story campaign missions in Infinity Heroes, and potential outside experiences such as short little videos or animatics or just stories from the Infinity Wars universe going forward to actually give some of these amazing characters the depth and purpose that they so much deserve, or some of them need because they were just never given that.
Yeah, and we're just going in that direction now. Obviously, Lady Valor's a great, amazing intern who's done great work with us on the lore. So one of my things in creating Infinity Heroes was to make it very minimal scope, not have things convoluted, well, not even convoluted, but focus on lore and things like that, just to be able to focus in on the gameplay, get the core gameplay right, have it fun, and then build from there. Now, I believe we've done that. I hope
yes.
You guys all agree with me there. It's quite fun. But now, we have this possibility, especially with Infinity Wars coming back. It's almost, we have to look at that situation again and go, okay, what is the lore? Where are we going? So let's have a little bit of a fun chat about the lore.
Yeah, it means we can have that integration between the Infinity Heroes stuff that's coming out and any potential updates that we make to Infinity Wars.
Yeah, and again, this is all open to change and upgrading.
Yes.
We want all your ideas in the comments below or wherever we end up posting this.
If we pitch an idea to the story and it doesn't make sense because of a very small, minute detail that's mentioned from 2012, call us out on it. We want to know. We want to make sure that we're not making mistakes here because we only have so many eyes looking at the project, and an extra set is always going to be beneficial.
What if a wizard did do it?
What if a wizard did do it? Who knows? Do you guys want to sit around for the lore conversation?
It might be better just to focus on you guys. I think we can cut from here.
Sure
and just,
thing. With the magic of editing, we'll now channel into a 2-person scope.
But just before we go to that, I know this is gonna be the last time I get to talk on this little cast. So let me just potentially say. #save IW could become a thing. See what you guys think about that as well. And to be frank, and I said this in the preamble before, this is really up to you guys as to whether these servers go down or whether we work together to bring it back up and make this into the game it deserves to be. So I'd love to work with you guys on that, and your comments, thoughts. Preferably the less salty ones would be good. We've had to watch a lot of salty comments and not be able to even comment on those comments. So maybe the time for salt is over and we can focus on what's going to be able to revive this product. So I'm just going to see if this cat's going to jump. No.
No. So originally we were going to originally use Make Infinity Wars Great Again, but that didn't age well. So we're kind of going with #SaveIW at this stage.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you guys.
Yep.
Ruben, you want to sign off a little bit?
Great. Thanks, and look forward to showing you all what we've been working on with Infinity Heroes.
I'm excited to chat with you guys individually soon as well, and we're talking about just jumping on the chat channels as well, just to have this be a two-way street rather than just the cast.
Yeah, if you're watching this like the day it releases, check the Infinity Wars Discord. You might actually see one of us or multiple of us there discussing, because I know myself personally, when I hit publish, I'm going to be sitting in that room getting reactions and hearing ground level feedback as soon as I can, writing down notes, and we are going to be actioning some of this feedback, and we want to hear from you guys. So check link in the description. I might put a link on the screen right here if I'm clever enough to remember to do that, but if I don't, check the link in the description, and we want to hear from you there.
Great. This is Agent Core signing off. Take care, and
This is Ruben signing off.
great. See you guys.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Lore Deep Dive. I, of course, am Jason OCE, joined again by Lady Valor. Quick thing we're just going to touch on, a little bit about us and why we're the people that are talking about this at this stage. You want to introduce yourself, Lady?
Yeah, no
Where
problem.
do you come from?
Yeah. I'm currently a screenwriting student. I have experience working with TV, both behind the camera and as a writer. I also have just years of experience writing fantasy. I've done a little bit of writing for video games, and also world building in particular has always been a very big passion of mine. What about yourself?
I come from a little bit of a background of writing stuff like song lyrics, poetry, and fan fiction. Got a few nominations and awards here and there, all just very low level stuff. And I did that purely out of my own volition, just because it was what I enjoyed doing. And I eventually got a skill at it, and I've done professional work on projects for about the last year or two, just as a bit of a freelance side thing. And I really enjoy working on game story stuff. So that's how we kind of came to be in the position where we influence the lore going forward. So today we're going to talk about the lore and where we're at now and our current plans going forward. Again, they are just plans. It's all open to being changed. And if there are things that aren't necessarily 100% factual, please let us know in the comments. We are reading everything and we are keeping eyes on stuff. We do want to hear from you. So
We love you.
yes, we do. The main two we're going to talk about today is Flame Dawn and Genesis. You want to get us started?
Alright, cool. So for everyone's favourite murder rumors, Flame Dawn are not in a great spot right now. They've just sort of finished an interdimensional war with robot zombies and literal angels. Sort of closest thing we've got to a protagonist, the current leader of the Flame Dawn, Iberian, is currently going through a bit of an emotional patch because of the horribly violent death of his best friend.
Yeah, so Bromwich did die in the campaign against the robo-zombie guys, and that's left Iberian without his right-hand man, without his 2IC, and his, loss is something that they're very accustomed to in their culture, but he hasn't necessarily experienced loss that close to home, so he's suffering a little bit as a result.
They are turns out society with origins based off of ancient Romans, the ancient Vikings, and just general sort of barbarians of the time, combined with high-tech future weaponry, are not an emotionally mature people.
Who would have thought? So, let's talk about him and what his direction is going forward. He's suffering from grief, he's suffering from PTSD. What happens?
Well, from the story details later. We'll be finding out what happens with him as Infinity Heroes starts to roll out, and later on Infinity Wars 2. But where he is sort of at the start, which is where which is where his gameplay for Infinity Heroes sort of starts to come in. He is going to start leading a special unit within the Flame Dawn called the Vanguard. The Vanguard are fighters or soldiers who have come so close to death on their own that they're considered already dead. And you can't kill something that's already dead.
Yeah.
That's their thinking. And Iberian's gone, I could healthily cope with my problems by talking it out with loved ones and friends, or I could go on conquesting and fighting.
Yes.
What's that? Certain chance of death with almost no chance at success. Count me in.
Yeah. He's recklessly just charging into battle with the elite undead, not really dead fighters by his side. And that's kind of left, the actual Flame Dawn Empire without like an actual cohesive leadership. So what do we do about that?
Well, we've got someone special stepping in. If people familiar with the game might know her, Kali, leader of the Purifiers, and at one point ascended. Member of the Ascended by the Overseers, much like Iberian. Also like Iberian, she has also ended up rejecting her angelic powers, and so she's in a bit of a very similar position to Iberian. She hasn't gone through a personal tragedy as far as we know, but that might change. You can always give a child a good, robo stabbing. But we really want to see what she can do as a character. We sort of already knew she was already the leader of the Purifier. She was already a bit of a big deal.
She's basically one of the only people that's well suited to potentially step into leadership.
She's the only one actually doing anything.
Does she want to step into leadership?
Not particularly.
This is a responsibility that's fallen to her, and she's doing it just because, well, there's no one else here. And there's going to be some personal conflicts going on between Kali, who's like, hey, snap out of it, come and lead your entire empire. You can lead them, you know how all this works. I don't want to deal with, inter-clan disputes. I don't want to sign tax forms. Like, I'm a purifier, I'm a warrior. Like, I lead small tribes, and I do really good at it. I don't know how to lead an empire that stretches, half of our planet. That's not really my thing. And, there's a lot of conflict and growth that happens there between these people.
Do you think she signs her tax forms in blood? Like, just pricks her finger and just...
Or with a flame sword, either one.
Well, I think that's sort of enough for Flame Dawn for tonight. A bit of enough of a teaser. And next, we're sort of moving on to one of my favourite... my second favourite faction. We're talking about Genesis Industries as well. So in particular, we're going to be looking at the aftermath of Orion being killed during the later parts of the story from Infinity Wars. We're also going to talk about the new leadership that has taken control in Genesis Industries, which is Orion's own handmade software, the OmniMind. Jason, you're a bit more in with the OmniMind than I am. Would you like to?
So Orion worked on this piece of software that he originally designed in the event of me something going wrong, the OmniMind is going to be taking over and taking care of everything. Now, this has created a little bit of a disbalance amongst the people, where most of the people are like, okay, hey, if it's good enough for Orion, I have full utter trust and faith in him, it's good enough for me. However, there are going to be people who understand that this is software that can be potentially corrupted, and they're not 100% on board with the idea of leadership coming from anything that's, not at least some way biological and human. They want an actual person in charge. That's where we get introduced to Drayson, who's a new character coming out in Infinity Heroes. His backstory is that he comes from Flame Dawn, and at some point in his life was transitioned from Flame Dawn to Genesis by his own choice, and has worked his way up the military ranks there. He's relatively smart, and also, buff as hell, because he comes from Flame Dawn, built like a tank. He actually had a lot of easy access to a lot of their heavy weaponry, because they designed some amazing high-tech weapons, but they were a bit heavy, and they could invest time and effort into making lightweight versions of them. But Drayson would just pick up this giant arc cannon and wield it with ease, and it wouldn't be any problem. His specific belief going forward is that he's worked against computers his whole life, and he knows how easy they are to corrupt and be destroyed. He knows that having an OmniMind in charge of Genesis Industries is a really bad move. And his campaign, and accidentally maybe starting a civil war, we'll see, is that he knows a human should be in charge. He knows 100% sure that he's not going to be the one in charge because he's from Flame Dawn, and it doesn't work like that. But he knows that a competent human would be far superior to an OmniMind because it won't fall to corruption or to breaking or to an electricity outage. Machinery isn't perfect, and he wants a human in place because he sees it as so much better.
I think that sort of covers everything.
I think the last thing we need to mention is that Luca is kind of an uneasy middle ground in all this. She's just busy playing with...
Luca's... We've got some fun plans for Luca. Luca's always sort of been my go-to character.
She's pretty fun for Genesis, so we do have plans there as well.
Luca fans, you won't be disappointed.
We hope. So that's everything. If you did manage to make it this far, thank you so much for watching the InfinityCast. I, of course, have been Jason OCE. This is Lady Valor, and I do want to also give a quick shout out and thank you to both Ruben and Agent Coil Prime that joined us earlier on. Leave a comment, drop us a line in the Discord. We do look forward to hearing from you, and thank you so much for watching.